My name is Christine. I'm 37 years old and a mother of 4. I graduated from the University of Oxford and Notre Dame Law School and spent a few years clerking on my state Supreme Court. In my last term there, I had my first child, and since that time I've decided to stay home to raise my children. I've taken up Cecile Richards' challenge to post a YouTube video speaking out about so-called reproductive freedom in relation to the HHS mandate. And as a woman, this is where I stand. The HHS mandate is a clear and blatant violation of the First Amendment, forcing every insurer, including the religiously affiliated insurers, to provide free contraception against their moral convictions is simply wrong. Remember, even if you don't take a single cent of federal money, you are still required to provide free contraception. This is not a debate about federal funding. This is about forcing people to act against their moral convictions. Also, it is a myth to think that contraception will really be provided free of charge. Nothing ever comes for free. Somebody is going to absorb the cost. And I can assure you that these insurance companies are not going to provide contraception out of the kindness of their hearts. Premiums will go up, and you and I and anybody with a moral objection to contraception will be forced to pay for them. Now, will the insurance companies come out and say, we're raising premiums because we want to cover contraception? Of course not. They will never say that. They'll think of other reasons. But the end result is you and I will pay for it. Now, I want to take a moment to talk not about religious liberty, but rather about contraception itself. Why does the Catholic Church teach what it does about the harmfulness of birth control? A lot of people don't know this, but up till 1930, every single major Christian denomination, every single major Christian faith community held that contraception was harmful and immoral. Every single one. Presbyterians, Lutherans, Methodists, Anglicans, every single one without exception. And it was in 1930 that the Anglican Church, for the first time, allowed the use of contraception in very narrow circumstances. That was the little crack in the dam. It was only a matter of time before the floodgates were opened, and every single major Christian faith community was swept away in the torrent. The Catholic Church alone stood firm against the popular tide. Now, when the use of contraception today is so widespread, so commonplace, that it's a given, why is it that the church holds to what it does today? Why has the church itself not bowed to popular pressure in this area? The reason really comes down to an understanding of the nature of physical intimacy. Sex is supposed to be a beautiful expression of one's love for one's spouse, but it also has another dimension, and that is being open to life, which is a tremendous blessing. The use of contraception divorces these two aspects from each other, and it reduces sex to mere pleasure. Children are no longer considered a natural consequence of sex, and consequently women are reduced to being treated as mere objects. Now, some women may enjoy the freedom to be treated as objects. There are women who enter the porn industry willingly, and they don't mind being treated as sexual objects. But I don't think anybody in his right mind could possibly say that they're not harming themselves greatly. And the facts are very clear. Since the legalization and widespread use of contraception, there has been an explosion of illegitimacy, and the number of abortions has skyrocketed. Why is this? It's very simple. It's because contraception is not fail-proof. In fact, the failure rate of contraception is rather high. The contraceptive mentality encourages the use, encourages frequent hookups and casual sex. And when you're no longer thinking about the natural consequences of sex, well, what happens when wonder of wonders, lo and behold, a child is the result of this union? one of two things will happen. Either the child is going to get aborted, or the mother is going to end up, a single parent. And speaking strictly from the standpoint of women's rights, I don't think that anyone can possibly say that either abortion or single parenthood is a true benefit to women. Abortion is a tragedy that does unspeakable damage to a woman emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and sometimes physically. And single parenthood, where a child is not raised by a father who can love him, care for him, look after him, that is not ideal. I think people of faith everywhere can agree that each of us is born with tremendous dignity as images of God. And with that dignity comes tremendous responsibilities, including treating our bodies in a way consonant with that dignity. Now, believe me, I understand the concerns and fears about pregnancy, about carrying a child, to term and raising that child. I have 4 little ones of my own. Believe me, I know all the sacrifices that are involved. But I make an appeal here to people of goodwill everywhere. If you entrust yourself to the one who blessed you with life, he will not fail you. He will not abandon you. That may be a very strange, naive way of thinking to the worldly wise, but speaking from personal experience, I can tell you it is nonetheless true. The reason the Catholic Church teaches as it does on this issue fundamentally is not because it wants to subjugate or oppress women, but the opposite. It's because we as women are endowed with such immense dignity that the Church desires to show us a better way, a way that exalts us, protects our dignity, and makes us authentically who we are meant to be.